This time on Ask Rad Rat, we talk about Palace and Supreme. We talk about if filmers and editors get enough credit in the industry. And we also talk about if it's possible to 360 flip anything that's ever been ollied. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, the channel where you can learn something new about skateboarding 3 times a week. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we talk about skateboarding, from culture to learning tricks on the shred school to looking at the careers of your favorite pros to your favorite brands to everything in between. Today I answer your questions on the series Ask Rad Rat, and I have 3 of them for you. First one is from Cullen Coop, who asks, what do you think of companies like Supreme and Palace that sell to customers interested in fashion, not skating? So, I try to put myself in that position, and I don't think I would do anything different. So, you know what happens? They make a shirt with their logo on it and suddenly Kanye's seen wearing it or something and it becomes this huge thing. What are you gonna do? So imagine if I put my Rad Rat logo on a t-shirt and I started a web store and I just bought a few and then they suddenly sold out instantly. Because, I don't know, Chris Haslam was seen wearing one, or however that would work. Suddenly they were really popular and they start selling out like crazy. So I make more and they sell out more and they sell out, start raising the prices, still sell out more and more and more. That would be awesome, that would be really cool. I would be happy to be able to sell all these shirts. What would you do? Would you put a CAPTCHA code and have it be a skateboarding question and you have to know the answer to that to be allowed to buy my shirt? I would not really care that much. It's kind of lame when you have people out there who have no idea anything about skateboarding, wearing like a Vans hat and they're wearing all kinds of skateboarding stuff. But, as the company, what are you going to do? Not take their money? So, I don't know. I don't have any problem with it. I think it's kind of weird that it happens, but that's not their fault. Second question is from Luis Gonzalez, who asks, do you think skateboarding gives filmers, editors enough credit for their work within the industry? And there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. First is, if the filming and editing is good, you don't really notice it, right? So that's kind of the job, is to not distract from the skateboarding. You don't want to do crazy effects and do all kinds of really weird transitions that really draw attention to themselves, because it's about the skateboarding. So your job is to kind of disappear a little bit. That said, I can't really name any filmers or editors outside of Reda, but he was in the skate games, everyone knows him. But that's just kind of how it is in the creative industry in general. So I used to work for the Detroit Media Partnership, which was a advertising arm for the Detroit News and the Free Press and Cars.com. So we were all in the same building and I was making ads for the websites for all 3. And there were times that we in the creative department worked some miracles. From the creative director to the writer I would work with, or in the stuff that I did, we would do some pretty crazy stuff. I'll show you an example. This ad, I did it by myself, came up with this idea, the concept, and I made it. It's the car doing a burnout, and it was a Challenger originally. And doing that within the file size limit and the time limits and all the different restrictions we have was really complicated. I had to write a custom smoke particle emitter in code. I had to, figure out how to make it stop after a certain time. I had to do all this really crazy stuff. We showed it to the sales team. They loved it. They took it out and showed it to some dealerships, and this Ford dealership bought it, and we ended up making this one. And I just saw, that was 5 years ago. I just saw that ad running with a different car, I think, a couple months ago on Cars.com. They still use it, and I just made that up. But the team as a unit, we did a lot of really crazy stuff. I'll try to show you some more examples. And at the end of the year, the last year that I worked there, we got invited to this award ceremony. And this was an award ceremony only for the sales team. And we all sat there and we watched as the sales team won awards for the stuff that we did, which was so infuriating. You had this probably 2 rows of people from our team just like this the whole time. Because we made this stuff. They went out and showed it to somebody, and yeah, they got them to sign the paperwork and pay them money, but they wouldn't have been able to do that without the stuff we made. And yet we got 0 credit, 0 attention, no raises and bonuses and stuff. We got nothing, but the sales team got all the glory. So I say that just to say that the creative team in any industry is generally crapped on. You get nothing and no one cares. So yeah, it's not great in the skateboarding industry, but it's not uncommon. The third question is from Drew in West LA, who asks, do you subscribe to the theory that any gap that can be ollied can also be 360 flipped? And I can see why people might think that, because that has been true up until recently. You know, the biggest gap in the world in 1994 has been 360 foot by now. You know, but we're getting to a point where skateboarding skill has gone way through the roof, to a point where we're starting to reach human limits. It's not about having the skill to ollie the gap, it's about having the knees and the ankles to be able to absorb the impact from it. You know, like Jaws with a 25 set, could that be 360 flipped? By a robot, maybe. You know, watching someone do a 360 flip down a gap, you see the process of it, it's a lot different than just ollieing it. Just ollieing it, it's about, you know, the impact and the timing and the speed and all that kind of stuff. But when you 360 flip it, you're adding in so much other stuff. You're adding in the actual skill of doing the trick. It's not going to be 100% of the time that you can do a 360 flip perfectly. But to be able to do that, you have to be able to catch it in the air with a good enough foot position to be able to land, as opposed to an ollie where you're just attached to the board the whole time. You have to be able to do that and focus on the board and not worry about the gap for a second and then catch it and keep going. It's a big difference. It's not as simple as you can ollie it, you can do a 360 flip, therefore you can 360 flip it. There's always going to be a mental barrier. There's always going to be a skill barrier of being able to do it. So I don't think that people will ever get to that point where the biggest thing that you could possibly do, where if there was one more stair you would break your leg and you just barely are able to pull it off and they 360 flip it. You know, the other issue is the time it would take. You might be able to, you know, I mean, you can ollie every try. You might not be able to ollie the gap every try, but you can do that trick every try. 360 flip you might not be 100% at, so it might take you a lot more attempts, and then that's more physical damage from getting smashed over and over and over. I recently did a review of the ETN network, and they have a lot of stuff like that where it's just live skating at a spot, and you see this process that they go through to do something that big. And after you see something like that, I think it's pretty obvious that you will never be able to 360 flip the same thing that you can ollie. I mean, at the same limit. Where you're at your limit, you can't just do both. So that's what I think about that. I'd like to hear your comments about that below. Also, I have a link to my Instagram and Twitter below. Send me a DM on either of those to have your question in the next video. Until then though, here are some more videos you might want to check out. Also, my logo right here in the middle of the screen. You can tap on that to keep learning new things about skateboarding 3 times a week. Thanks for watching.